Hi, welcome back to my show, Hosting Heaven. My name is Gabrielle Burton, and I am a Christian licensed marriage and family therapist of 10 years, specializing in narcissistic and spiritual abuse. And I'm also the author of the book, The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Gold Digger, Discovering the Hidden Treasures Within. It's a book that combines biblical and mental health principles to help you dive deeper into your relationship with God, yourself, and others. You can grab your copy in the link below. Today, I am so excited with my guest. I have Etienne with me. And I'm just really excited for you to share today your story and your testimony just on healthy relationships, the importance of really finding and identifying healthy relationships.
Yes.
And I know you kind of shared earlier that you're going to share just your testimony around what it looks like when you are in a relationship that isn't healthy and the effect that it had on you. So
yes.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and then we'll get into your story.
Okay. Hi, I am Etienne Lavelle, and I put out content that helps women heal from toxic, abusive relationships and step fully into their God-given purpose.
Amen.
I also do makeup on the side. I've been doing it for 13 years now, quite some time. But yeah, I just, it really just started probably a year and a half after we had broken up, that I wanted to help people dealing with depression. And then I feel like God placed it on my heart to really hone in and focus and just help women and give them tips and tricks that I did after my toxic abusive relationship that really helped me heal and honestly overcome it with God, because it was actually Him that healed me, and it was Him that not only did He heal my broken heart, He actually healed my depression and my anxiety. I didn't even ask Him to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had met my ex. We had originally matched on like a dating app, and this was before I gave my life to Christ.
Okay.
And prior, like my life before Christ, it was kind of like
your BC days.
BC, totally BC. I was into like the New Age practices, and I always believed in God. But like when I would pray to like all the foo things, and I had tried everything to help me feeling better, because like I wasn't suicidal most of my life, but there were moments in my life that I was suicidal. And especially in that relationship, that definitely brought that out in like the heated moments and the blow-ups and everything. Like it was almost as if like this dark veil just came over me, and I was started thinking like, oh, I don't need to live,
Wow.
And that relationship really brought that out. And I started dating him. And I remember, like, I found him on Instagram, because we had matched on the apps, but like, we never went out on a date or anything.
Okay.
And I found him on Instagram. He was actually friends with someone I was friends with. So I was like, oh, wow, that's the guy from the dating app.
Yeah.
So I went ahead, and I always say they're my famous last words before that moment. I was like, what do I have to lose? But I actually had so much to lose.
Wow.
And I lost so much. And granted, I always want to have compassion, for people, but I chose to put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
And so we started dating, and it was like on paper, he was everything I wanted. Like we had so many of the same interests, and like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and he had a career, he owned his house. I was like, oh, he's got his life together on the surface.
Right.
But then as time went on, I realized that he's an alcoholic. He was addicted to drugs.
Wow.
And, to keep up with him, which I barely drank when I met him, I was drinking with him all the time. So, one, I wasn't in the right, I had no business being in a relationship, because I had so many, like, when I was dealing with depression behind closed doors. And two, I had so much like unhealed things from all my other past relationships and my childhood and everything, that realistically, like, looking back now, I was like, I was in no business being in that kind of relationship. But man, like, it's so true. Like, God will use what was meant for evil for good.
Yes.
So, blow up after blow up, in that relationship, when you're dating someone that, one, they're an alcoholic, and two, they're a narcissist, and they're emotionally and mentally abusive, and it did get physical at the end. you start believing that, oh, this is all my fault,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that I really want to let women know, that you never caused someone to abuse you. It is never your fault. You are not responsible for somebody else's behavior or actions.
That's right.
And for the longest time, I know that was the enemy, like trying to make me think like, oh, it's your fault. It's your fault. So I stopped drinking. I became sober. And what the revelation that I received from being sober while he was still drinking, and we were still getting into arguments, there were still blow-ups happening, is that, wait a minute, this is not all my fault. Like, I would try to remedy the situation, and then, long story short, we broke up a few times. We broke up the first time. We got back together for 2 weeks, and then at the end, I had caught him in a lie, and next thing I know, I confront him with it, and he blew up. He ended up pushing me. I like flew 4 feet back into the wall and hit my head.
Gosh.
He like threw all my things literally out into the street,
Oh,
even
wow.
though I was like, wait, how is this happening when I'm not the one that did anything?
Right.
So after that, it was just, even after the breakup, I still wasn't doing things that were helping me heal. Like, I was still hanging out with our mutual friends. I was still putting myself in environments where I was getting triggered day after day. Like, his friends, they were a constant reminder of him. But I was like, no, I'm going to be strong. I can do this. And, them talking about him was reminders I was getting triggered. And then it wasn't until I chose to stop drinking, because hanging out with his group of friends and putting myself in that environment, I was still entangled in his world.
That's right.
And so when I realized, like, man, my life kind of was hitting like, not a plateau, but kind of like a wall, because I wasn't just, I didn't have anything that was like fulfilling me, or at least that's, at the time I didn't. So I made the choice. I was like, okay, I'm going to stop drinking, and I'm going to make the commitment to go to church every weekend. I'm going to tell you, the minute I made that decision, it was like, God's like, okay, now you're getting rid of that idol. Now I can come in and heal you.
Wow.
And like, oh my gosh,
Amazing.
it's like, honestly, like, God, sure enough, those friendships started organically falling off. And by me removing that part of my life, I gave God room to come in and truly be able to do a work in healing on me. And he revealed things to me, and like, about a year after I decided that I made that decision, I was like thinking about it, and I was like, wow, I'm not depressed anymore. And my anxiety's gone. And I was like, that for sure was God, because I've tried everything. Like, I've tried, before Christ BC, I tried everything except ayahuasca to help me feel better, to help me heal because of that breakup. And then even prior to that, I went to like healing ceremony things in people's houses, and like none of that stuff ever worked, ever. And then it's so crazy because like, it's just a testament to God's love. It's like, I recently saw a clip from this other podcast, and it was about a lady who is married, and her husband, I guess, was, I'm assuming he was a narcissist, but while he was a narcissist, she would pray to God and like, obviously, like, God, please change him. God, please do your work on him, and God revealed to her, he's like, you need to stop idolizing your husband, because if I just heal him, if I just make him better, then the worshiping of him is still going to be there, and you're not going to be putting me first. And I was like, oh, wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
So it's like, when I removed being in that environment, that's when God actually came in and was like, okay, I'm going to not only heal your heart, but I'm also going to cure your depression and cure your anxiety. And now, I mean, like, when people are depressed and you ask them like, oh, how are you doing? They're always like, oh, I'm okay, or I'm good, but they're lying. 90% of the time they are lying. And that was me. And now when people ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, oh, I'm doing great. Like, God is great. Like, God is, like, my life with God is like, I don't ever want to go back. And I'm not ever sacrificing what I have with Jesus for anybody.
Amen.
The man of God that he has for me, like, he is also going to have God as his number one. And when we come together, like, we are going to put God first.
Yeah.
And nothing is like God is first in our marriage, and then we come next, and then down the totem pole.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so like that, in the process of like spending more time with God and feeling His presence, it's like when they say like, oh, it's like you're on the mountaintop, and like I really felt God like when I chose to start going to church more often. I could feel Him in my bedroom. It was so, I'm just like, wow, God, I feel you. This is cool. And then just like He would speak to me and all the stuff. And it honestly, like giving your life to Christ, like I don't know how He does it, but He truly is our healer.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. I love that you shared all of that, because I mean, you hit on a lot of things that are so important. One of the things you mentioned was idolatry. And I would say that in our world, and even in like the Christian world, marriage is an idol. And there's so many people. I've been doing this work for 10 years, and I work primarily with Christians. The idolatry around finding that person and becoming, a wife and a mom. Granted, those are all beautiful things, and the Bible does say be fruitful and multiply. Yeah. But you have got to make sure that you are with the right person, because being with the wrong person will absolutely make or break you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so I love that you decided to walk away. The other thing that I think was so beautiful was, a lot of times in relationships, it can easily become very codependent, because it thinks like, okay, well, if I do something that differently, then they will change. Yes. And a lot of it is a very individual work, right? You have to look at yourself and look at your patterns, look at your self-worth, look at all of that. And when you start growing, you'll start to see that there is a gap in between you. But you mentioned you actually had to lower your standards to meet Him.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You had to go, okay, well, I don't drink, but in order to join Him in His world, I'm going to start drinking so I can get on his level, 100%, right? Yeah. So eventually you did start raising your standards, and God started giving you a higher, more heavenly perspective. And we also know that, truthfully, it's a spiritual battle, right? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. And so definitely when it comes to narcissism and things like that, definitely there's a spiritual component going on to it as well. And when you yoke yourself up with that, it is so difficult. It's like when you're doing laundry. You're like, I don't know if this is my sock or your sock. Yeah. I don't know who's in the way, right?
Your drum or my drum?
Right, exactly. Both.
Oh no.
It gets really, really difficult. And so I think that it's so important as you do your own healing work before you are able to actually identify someone who's healthy. Because if you don't do that work, you're going to attract someone who is mirroring something, a familiar spirit. That's really, maybe, I don't know what your upbringing is. We didn't really talk much about that, but a lot of times people will pick people that are reminding them of childhood trauma or abusive father, parent, what have you. And so I love that you did that work.
Yeah.
I am curious now. You are single, and what has that been like for you? Navigating singleness, dating. What is that like for you right now?
It's definitely been a journey, but it's been a beautiful one with Jesus. And I'm going to be honest, like, there's been moments where, like, I'm questioning, like, God, why? Like, sometimes it happens when you hear someone say, like, oh, I met somebody. And then you're like, God, when is it my turn? But I actually watched a podcast that had Mia Fields on it. And her testimony on God's promises, that really has, like, inspired me and activated more faith in me, if that makes sense. Because I feel like God really showed me or let me listen to her testimony, because she, oh my gosh, it's an amazing podcast, but she pretty much like got a promise from God, and then whenever doubt would try to come in, whenever discouragement tried to come in, she would stand on the promise that God gave her. She's like, no, my Heavenly Father promised me this. He's good on His word, and I'm going to stand on this promise. So whenever that doubt comes in my mind, I always repeat that. I'm like, no, God promised me this. And she even says, like, if you don't have a promise from God, go in the Bible, it's full of promises. And sure enough, like, I was just like, okay, God, what should I read first? And He was like, I felt like He said Ruth. And I heard within my head, I'm like, okay. So then I thought it was going to be the promise of like, your husband comes to you and it's not. No, it's the promise that he's a redeemer, that he's going to redeem me.
Amen.
So I'm like, okay, promise number one.
Amen.
Then I'm like, okay, God. So I went on to read the story of Jericho, that God is a way maker.
Amen.
That's promise number two. Then like he's giving me more promises, like promise like of, the story with like Sarah and like that he's a baby maker, that he's going to provide, and so just standing, and that he's a promise keeper, standing on those promises and just believing with all my heart, like that's really helped me in those moments where like the enemy's trying to put down in my mind, and I was like, no, I'm standing on God's promise. I believe him that he's going to deliver on that. And so this whole season has actually, I feel like it just keeps getting better and better. Honestly, I haven't been on any dates.
Yeah.
Since I gave my life to Christ. I have been asked out, but like something that Mia Field said that recently, it just so happened that someone was trying to set me up with someone. She said that like she would meet or like see people and then she just didn't really have a peace about it. So I looked at this person, I was like, I just really don't have a peace about it. It just feels like if I were to, like, one, I don't want to waste his time either. Like, I feel like if I were to entertain that, then it would pull me away from God. And that's when I was like, no, God, I don't ever want to lose what we have. So, I hope I answered all the questions. I feel like I went off on a tangent.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I love that. Like, you're just very content in like where you are with the Lord, and I think that that's so beautiful. I think that that's something that we all have to be, whether we are single, whatever season of life we find ourselves in, and that I think something that it's good is that what God has promised you, and I also think that it's important to be confident in what He has said, no matter what other people say. I don't know about you. I'm also single, and I'll have people say things like, where is your husband at? And why hasn't it happened? And, I think it's like, hey, honestly, like I answer to God. I serve God. I am wherever He has me. And we also forget that being single is a very significant lifestyle as well. Jesus was single, right? Paul even writes, it's almost, I'd rather you be like me, right? Yeah. Because our whole work now is dedicated to God's work, the Father's business. And so we don't have, we're not worried about pleasing our partners or raising kids, we're totally dedicated to what God's asked us to do. And I was sharing with you earlier, there's a lady who I went to church with many, many years ago, and she served in ministry and was single up until I want to say late 30s, maybe early 40s. And people would always say, where's your husband? Why isn't your husband coming? And she ended up writing a book, which I thought was really powerful. And she just talked about, like, God pretty much had asked her, if I called you to a life of singleness, would I be enough for you?
That's good.
And you have to get to a place where that answer is yes.
Yes.
You have to get to a place where that answer is yes, because I do believe in what I have seen throughout many years of my work is there's a lot of women who don't feel that way. That would not be yes. Yeah. And then they find themselves rushing into relationships, and unfortunately the divorce rate inside and outside the church is pretty much the same. Yeah. It all comes down to self-worth and identity, and really truly like trusting that God is everything for us, and that He withholds no good thing. And that's the thing that I always say. I'm always like, God, I thank you that you withhold no good thing. If I don't have it, it's because it's not for me yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm a lot like you too, where anytime I meet a guy, I always pray. I pray and I say, God, if this is not the person for me, close the door and He will slam it. There's actually one time there was a guy who I was messaging, and we were going on a date, and I said my little prayer, and I'm like, okay, Lord, like if he's not for me, make it really obvious. And so we were getting ready to meet up for sushi, and he actually got into a little car accident right before we were meeting up. Oh, wow. And so he texted me and just said, hey, like I'm running a little bit late. I got into a little fender bender, but I'll be over, about 10 minutes late. I'm like, okay, sounds great. So I go to dinner, and God was amazing to reveal His character to me in the way He handled the situation. Wow. I was like, that's all I needed to know. He very much was like, he was pretty much minimizing the harm. He was like, yeah, I hit this lady, and she wanted my insurance, which was so dumb because I just barely hit her. And I'm like, and then I was like, oh, well, what caused the car accident? While I was texting and driving. All the things, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like, thank you, God, right? And so he's so good that he is going to prevent us from going down a path into something that isn't for us. And so, and you know, we obviously, you know, let no man separate what God has brought together. But there's a lot of relationships that God hasn't brought together. We have to acknowledge that sometimes it's our own will. Sometimes it's out of loneliness. Sometimes it's out of just fear. Sometimes it's out of low self-esteem. And so when you are where you are doing the work that you've done, sitting with the Lord and just knowing that like he has called you to be his, he called you as his daughter, and he withholds no good thing, you're going to be in a lot healthier of a place to identify a partner and a man of God.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think like, especially if you've been in a toxic, abusive relationship, it's your duty to guard your heart. Because God says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
That's right.
So I think it's the women who've come out of toxic, abusive relationships. Like I understand in the Christian dating, it moves quickly, but it's your well-being and your mental and emotional and physical health are not worth rushing into something because the last thing you want is to get addicted to somebody else, right? And so now it's really important to educate yourself and learn the type of abuse, the type of manipulation that you experience, love bombing, trauma bombing, like educate yourself with those terms. And I'm not saying to be fanatic with it and think everybody's love bombing you, right? You know, but it's like, be aware, right? And take things at a slower pace to protect yourself. So that way, if somebody starts showing you like that, they're telling you like within week 1 or week 2, oh, you're my wife, you know, you can take a step back and logically say like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You barely know me.
Right.
Instead of thinking like, oh my gosh, you know, rainbows and butterflies is
he's
great.
such a man of God. You have to say, does that resonate with my spirit?
Exactly.
Is that what God told me? And I will say this, I mean, unfortunately, in the Christian world, that is a big tactic. And I hate to break the news, but there's a lot of narcissistic men in the church. I hate to say it, but like the religious narcissists are the worst. Because they will try to use the word of God, and they know that women are looking for a man of God, a God to guide them. But if you don't have your own relationship with the Lord, you are not hearing from him for yourself. You're going to easily outsource responsibility and say, okay, well, I will be submissive and I'll do whatever you say. And they'll take that and run with it. I mean, some inconvenient truths is pornography is extremely high in the church. With men, there's a lot of sexual unhealth that happens in the church because we're rushing into relationships without having real conversations. I would never tell somebody to get married without going to premarital counseling. And I would say that especially when you're dating, you really want to surround yourself with wise counsel, not people that are telling you, hurry up and get married, better to burn with passion. No. Love is patient. That means you want to take your time. You want to vet them. You want to make sure you know how they fight. If you haven't gotten into a fight, pick a fight. You want to see how they fight. And you also want to hear what the people around you are saying and get very objective opinions. Not everybody that's like, oh, he's so great. I've never seen you so happy. Right? Hey, I didn't really like the way he spoke to the waitress. Or, hey, I kind of noticed when someone walked by, he was kind of like looking at somebody in a way that just seemed a little disrespectful or inappropriate. But be very, very wise to ask the people around you to give you some insight as to what's going on in the relationship. And then absolutely counseling, like early, often, be exhaustive in the conversations. But the truth is, nobody really knows how they're going to be in a marriage. Nobody has no idea because you have your thoughts and your ideas and things, but listen, when I tell you I've done this for a long time, there's a lot of things that'll come up. And so if you're not taking your due diligence, it's so much easier to break up than it is to get a divorce. And then if you have then kids, now you add kids into the mix, you know, that's really tough. So taking your time and just really knowing that what God has for you will not pass you. He is the author of time. And so being okay, if you're going to spend the rest of your lives together, you could take your time getting to know each other.
I totally agree, because that also like helps you not become attached to them, you know? And the moment when you start becoming attached, then that's when you potentially can start losing your identity.
That's right.
So it's like, it's so important to take your time and get to know them and see how they react with other people, see how they behave around certain people, what they can do for people that can't do anything for them.
That's so good.
So it's like, not words, like I would say, words are cheap, talk is cheap.
That's right.
Like, you have to see actions. And if they're just filling your ear with everything you want to hear. And another thing I want to point out is that when you're starting to date somebody, don't give them the blueprints to your heart.
Do not
give them details of what you expect.
Nope.
Do not share your love language with someone that you're just talking to and it's been a month.
Nope.
Like, give them vague generalizations. Like, like, oh yeah, I'm looking for someone that is a gentleman. That's very vague.
How do they show that they're a gentleman?
Exactly. If you tell them how to act, then they know, okay, this is what I have to do. If they are a manipulative person with ill intentions, or they're just a narcissist, they will use that to win you over.
Yeah, they want to exploit your vulnerabilities. If they're, again, an unhealthy, manipulative person. Honestly, this is what I really always tell women is everybody that you've dated in the past was great. Everybody treated you amazing. You've had nothing but great experiences with men. That's all you tell people when you get to know them. You do not let them know that every guy that you dated was abusive or this or that. Don't do that because then they already believe that your standards are going to cure. Everybody that you dated was amazing. They were awesome. It just wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
Right? I think that that's a healthy place to be. Don't tell them that, you're tired of being single and it's hard to date out here. Don't talk about that. It's great. I have a lot of friends. And if that's not your story, then do that.
Yeah.
Focus on building really good community. Be happy on your own. Have your own hobbies. Be okay. Answer that question. If God called you to a life of singleness, would you be okay with that? Be totally content with where God has you. So that way when someone comes along, they're adding to your life and to your joy, because the person that God has for you is not going to complete you. They're meant to complement you. And I think sometimes the language that we use in our society, it's like your significant other or your better half. We are not called to be half significant people.
Yeah.
We are called to be whole.
Yeah.
And that is holy, which is WHOLLY. So we gotta work on all of that and working on growing in every area of our lives. And then when God brings that person, if that's what he has for you, right? That you're gonna complement each other and you're gonna find someone that you can live without but don't want to.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love all the things that you shared too, because I think that those are such great, valid points. I know that a lot of us, especially as women, there's this like desire to, be moms, be wives and all of that, but there's so many ways that we can love people and nurture people. Use your time to do that now while you're single, because once you become married and have a family, you won't have as much time to pour into your community. And I heard a quote that said that the antidote to loneliness is not a relationship, it's actually purpose.
Oh, wow, that's good. Yeah.
So it's like if you find yourself being lonely, it's, well, am I living in my purpose right now? Am I doing something that is purposeful? And I know for myself personally, there are times where if I find myself feeling, down or like, oh, I just feel like I'm not, whatever, then I will turn on my camera and I'll make a video and kind of like, honestly, a lot of the times when I'm doing my content, it's like talking myself through something and then I'll share it and it blesses somebody else.
Nice.
And like, I'm so glad you shared that, or, oh, I'm so glad I'm not alone. And that's purposeful work, right? It's transmuting that pain into purpose and blessing somebody else. And so even this, right, being able to share your testimony about like the pain you went through and how that is able to now give somebody some really good insight on how to be healthy and whole as a single person, because our lives are just as significant.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like going back to the purpose, like God will give you a purpose. Like God has a purpose for your life.
Yeah.
So I think it's like really important to make sure that your relationship with God is as close as it could possibly be, because The other day I was like in my kitchen and I was like thinking about it and I was like, yeah, and that same thought came in my head, like, if I'm in a relationship right now, like what would that be like? And I don't know if I would have all this extra time like to spend with you, Jesus, like in my kitchen and singing with you and like talking to you and all this time that we get to spend together.
Yeah.
And then it just reminds me that our God is a jealous God.
Yes, he is.
So he, if you are not making time for him, if you're not stewarding that relationship with God now in your singleness, like how are you going to be able to steward that if you have somebody else?
That's right.
So it's like really, really just appreciating the time that you have. And I know, because I've been there too, in the beginning of it, where you're like, oh, your single time is the best time, and I'm like, really? And I'm seeing like everybody just like getting to relationships and everything, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But honestly though, like what God has done in my life in this time, honestly, and it hasn't even really been, when you think about it, that long.
Right.
Like, because I got saved in 2024, so
Yeah.
it would be almost 2 years.
Wow.
And in that short amount of time, I feel like he's given me joy, he's given me peace. Like I know that isolation isn't good, but like I'm so content in my condo, just spending time with God, like waking up with him, going to sleep with him, like praying to him, talking to him, dancing, worshiping, just having conversations with him and just like feeling like a little girl again,
I love it.
And so it's
like daddy's little girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like he has given me my life back.
Amen.
And because like I was depressed most of my life. Like since I was a teenager. I remember that was the first time I had my first suicidal thought.
Wow.
I was in middle school. And it just came out of nowhere and I'm like, why do I want to just do that? That's insane. And then just like, relationship after relationship, it just like kept chipping away at my soul. And then the only one that can heal you is God. He is the one who created your heart. He knows how to put it back together.
That's right.
And it's like when you truly surrender that to him, when you yield that to him, like, oh my gosh, the sky's the limit with him. Like, yeah, it's
I love it. Yeah, and the enemy, he's after identity, right? He doesn't know your future, but he does know your past.
Yeah.
So he'll continually bring things into your life to, keep tripping you up. The enemy does not have to take you out as long as he keeps you distracted.
Oh, 100%. And like, especially after a toxic, abusive relationship, when you are going through the healing process and it's hard, like one day you feel strong, the next day you're like crying in the middle of a store because a song came on, and then you're battling all this mental, like spiritual warfare that is going on, and you're questioning like, well, was it really that bad? And during that time, it's like it's vital to your healing to be surrounded by a community of women that will bring you closer to God and will snap you out of that, because sometimes the enemy will try to implant thoughts in your head to thinking like, oh, well, you're never going to find love again. He was the best you will ever get. And just like, oh, maybe you overreacted. It's like, no, those are all lies. It's like you write down the facts, and whenever the enemy tries to convince you otherwise, you go back to those facts and you're like, nope, actually, it was horrible.
That's right. That is so real.
I'm just like, no, like, because like, cognitive dissonance happens in the relationship, but it also happens during the breakup. And sometimes it feels stronger, and it's because like now when you were in the relationship, there was so much chaos, so much turmoil going on that your body never had a chance to actually deal with the emotions that were coming up.
That's right.
And once you break up and you're out of that, it feels more intense, because like now there's space.
That's right.
To deal with it.
Yeah.
So in those times, read the word, go to God, surrender it all to him, yield it to him, constantly bring God into your breaking points, because it's in the fire that you will be refined. And the woman that is on the other side of that healing, you are not going to even recognize who you were before. Like God is preparing you. Like if you're going through a toxic, abusive breakup, God is preparing you for the woman you are meant to be on the other side of that healing, the purpose that he has for you. You have to heal, you have to get through these moments and also learn, because like it takes two to tango. I brought stuff into that relationship, and and even to this day, God is still revealing, you shouldn't have done that. You're right, God. Thanks.
That was me.
That was me, God. You're right. So like, it's not always, and it's not to diminish what anybody has gone through, but it's like we also bring in our past experiences. We also bring in our unhealed traumas, you know. Right. So it's like, granted, you could have been the most perfect human being in that relationship, and they still would have acted. That's why you're not responsible for their behavior. But it's also taking ownership and partnering with God and healing those parts of yourself, so you can be that woman to fulfill the purpose that He has for you.
That's right.
And so, like, I wholeheartedly believe that, like, right, especially right after the breakup, it's like that's when, like, your mind is the most vulnerable, and the spiritual attacks are just coming in. And you have to armor yourself with scripture. When you use the sword of the Spirit, that's the spoken word of God. And like, I truly believe that when we use scripture to fight off spiritual attacks, that we are bringing Jesus into battle with us. Because it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So it's like, it truly arm yourself with scripture, with community, and also learning. And if you have to relearn it, learn about who God is, and also how much He loves you. Because the enemy is going to try to pull, like, during that toxic abusive relationship, that's why the enemy, like you said, attacks your identity. Because if you don't know who you are and whose you are, you will be pulled farther and farther away from God.
That's right.
And so after you leave that environment, you have to go back to Him. You have to, because when you know who you are in Jesus Christ, the enemy can try to come in. You're like, no, actually, I know whose I am, and I know who I am in Jesus, and that's not true, and that's a lie. And when you change the atmosphere in the spiritual, the effects that have, it's like your angels can now, like, fight off, like, whatever demon was trying to come at you, like, trying to attack your mind. Like, it changes the atmosphere, and perspective is sometimes, you know.
Yes, no, I love what you said. I actually have a book. It's called Prayers That Work. It's by a guy named Kevin Ewing, and oh my gosh, like, the prayers in that book are so powerful, because they address all different types of stuff. But I mean, breaking generational curses and soul ties, financial stressors, whatever it is, right? Because the enemy, he comes in different ways. It's generational curses. It can be from trauma. It can be from unforgiveness, abuse, all different types of things, right? So I also would partner this journey with the therapist as well, a Christian therapist.
Yes,
a Christian therapist, partly because when I was going through some of my own healing, I had a therapist, and yes, I go to therapy as a therapist, because I don't sell anything I don't believe in, and don't go to a therapist who doesn't do their own therapy work. But I had a therapist who, when I was kind of trying to work through some of my own just navigating community and stuff, really trying to find healthier Christian community, I realized that when I was kind of sharing about certain things that I was dealing with in the community, she would just say, well, maybe you just need to, like, cut everybody off. Maybe you just need to do this and do that. And I was like, that's actually completely the opposite of what I'm trying to do as becoming more Christ-like. Is I actually really want to love better, and I want to love well. I don't want to go to someone who's just going to tell me all these things that are like, oh, everybody else is the problem, right? And I do think that sometimes that can be a problem in some of these very secular therapy spaces, where everybody is just being co-authored into their crazy. And so now everybody's like, I don't have to deal with anybody. But also, when you're working through, unhealthy dynamics and things like that, I will say not to over spiritualize a lot of stuff too, right? It's finding the balance. I always like to say 1 foot on earth and 1 foot in heaven, because there are some real things that we have to also be able to ground ourselves in regards to just serious trauma and, shame and all kinds of stuff that we have to be able to navigate. And a really good therapist can help also bring some awareness to that. But also, God is the greatest counselor.
Yes.
And, and so definitely bringing him into that space. And then, like you said, finding really healthy community that can also hold space for your pain. Because some communities don't know how to do that. Some communities just go, all right, we're just going to pray and all of that. And sometimes if you're not really in that space just yet, right? Like, you're in a place of just really grieving that day, or you're really sad and depressed, and someone wants to go and just kind of, we're going to pray it off right now. I call it that spiritual assault, because I wasn't ready for all of that.
Yeah.
I actually just want to be sad right now.
Yeah.
I'm just really like sad, and I'm just having a day where I'm just feeling it, and I'm hurt like myself, you know. So being able to also see where you need to be. Everybody's process is going to look very different, so I don't want to over spiritualize this process either.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it really does. There's some shame that comes along with it, where people, you know, hid a lot of things that happen in their relationships, and they are afraid to talk about it, right? And so then sometimes when they do talk, people say, why didn't you tell me? And then there's a lot of that. So all that to say, you got to find your own journey of how you navigate through walking through those types of relationships and dynamics. But absolutely, like, God is the greatest counselor. And also, some people are not super familiar of like those spiritual dynamics, but spiritual warfare is a real thing. And I would say educating yourself on what the spiritual realm looks like. When it comes to narcissism, I do believe there's two spirits that are attached to it. Leviathan. And then spirit of Jezebel.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Jezebel is a spirit that is very controlling, manipulative, and a lot of times narcissists are prone to cheat. Or just not being very faithful. And then Leviathan is like just the spirit of confusion. And you're like, you say something and then it comes back and you're like, what did you hear me say? Like with narcissists, it's called like the manufactured chaos. And you're just like, I don't understand how like I could have this very same conversation with anybody else and everybody would hear me. And then when I talk to you, like it comes back just like, I don't know what happened here, right?
Like a word salad, you're like that.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't what? And then you're in the dark fog, you know, bewilderment. So I love what you mentioned about at times feeling like you need to write stuff down. That's always a really good indicator that you might be in an abusive relationship. Is if you're like, I need to, you know, it's also great. I would say journal through and write stuff out. And then also if you ever find yourself feeling like I need to record this conversation, that's also a really good indicator that you're probably not in the safest environment where you're constantly questioning, is it wrong that I'm asking them to validate my feelings, or was I asking for too much, or am I being selfish for setting a boundary? Like those kinds of things where you're starting to question. But the problem when you're dealing with a narcissist is there is no separation between you and them, and so that's where it gets really difficult because it's like you are a reflection of them, you are an extension of them, and so you needing anything outside of them is just really it's not something that they're okay with.
No, I agree. And like talking about like the confusion, like that's the one thing like I remember so profoundly, and I was like so confused all the time. I was questioning my reality. I'm like, am I crazy? Am I going crazy? Like, and like you end up becoming like hyper focused on their facial expression. Like, is he mad? Like, should I bring this up? You know? And then when you do bring it up, it's like you're just going around in like a circle conversation. Like, and it really does like it really does deteriorate your identity.
It does. It also changes the chemistry of your brain. And then your nervous system is constantly in fight, flight, freeze. And you're hypervigilant about, if I say this, am I going to tick you off? If I do this, you know, you're just walking on eggshells. And that really, really wrecks your nervous system.
It does.
The beautiful thing about God, though, is that He can really, like, rewire your nervous system. He can, you know, heal your brain. You know? Because He created you, and you know, just like spending that time with Him and worship and prayer and all of that, like He'll definitely restore you back to health. So that, partnered with a really good Christian therapist, partnered with a really healthy community, is definitely a really great healing plan from coming out of those types of relationships. And I would say, you know, I think that the biggest thing that keeps people in those relationships is shame. It's a lot of shame. It's a lot of, and sometimes they may tell you things about not telling the people, or you're already questioning yourself about your reality. Sometimes you think you're the problem, and you know, nobody else is talking about these kinds of things in their relationship, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. Like there's a lot of that goes on. But I would encourage you that if you're feeling like something is just not right in your relationship, I would really encourage you to tell somebody. And just get some perspective, because the enemy, he wants you isolated, and he wants you to be silent.
100%.
But the way that we break shame is by speaking it out and by someone going, "You're not wrong. You're not crazy."
100%. Like, because when we're in the fog, it's hard to see past it.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes you need like an outside, like you said, an outside perspective to kind of be like, actually, that's not right. That's not okay.
It's not healthy.
Like I remember a huge turning point right after my breakup was when I realized I wasn't crazy was when I found this book and it listed right off the bat like 30 red flags and like he had probably like 28 of them.
Wow.
And in that book I was like, wow, I'm not crazy. Like what he was doing is wrong. Like, you know, because they're very good at making you think that everything's your fault, you know? So it's like really surrounding yourself with people that can pretty much like remove the veil from your eyes and like actually know that is that's crazy. Like that's not normal. Like, you know, like relationships have their ups and downs, but that type of manipulation is not normal
at all.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah, I think too, unfortunately, what keeps some Christian women in those relationships and marriages, as well as the idea of there's a Bible verse that talks about, you know, if you marry, you know, someone who's not a believer, that the man can be saved through her prayers and things, and through her faith. And I would say, as a Christian therapist, you really have to really take that to God and to really help you wise counsel and look at the impact that it has on you and your children. The things that you're teaching your kids about what relationships look like can actually have even longer term effects on generations to come, right? Because you're teaching your kids what relationships and marriage and health looks like. I've had so many families that I've worked with where or kids and adult children, they'll say, "Man, I wish my parents would have divorced. I wish my parents would have separated and split up." And not that God isn't a healer or redeemer, because he can do anything, right? But sometimes there is a time for separation. Just like you had to go and do your own work, sometimes taking yourself away from that to get to know who you are so that you can operate. Because listen, we both can't be going down, okay? Listen,
and whole building going down.
I gotta survive, okay? And so you know, gotta be able to navigate that and be able to be that generational curse breaker and say it stops with me.
Yes, 100%.
It stops with me. And so everybody's journey is going to look different. Again, God is a miracle worker and he can do anything and everything, but it also has to be God's will. And we can't tell God what his will is. We can't say, "I know it's God's will to heal him." Do you know that? Do you know that? If we say him, it could be her, right? We don't want to kind of say that it's only men or women, but in any type of relational dynamic. And you know, if it's starting to affect your mental health, your spiritual health, just overall, you find yourself constantly questioning yourself or depressed. And I would even say too, sometimes this is also an indicator of wives in their marriages and their relationships and how they are with other people. That also can be an indicator of how healthy their relationships are. I've noticed that where it's like if they're really healthy and happy in their marriages, they can be a lot more kind, more loving, more open. But sometimes, like, if they're not, they may not be so open, or they might be more closed off, reserved, mean, catty, because there might be some things going on in their relationship. So I would also say, if you have a friend in your life who you notice like things have changed since they've gotten into this relationship and things like that, really speak into your friend's life and, "Hey friend, I love you, and I'm noticing some changes, and I just want to check in. Is everything okay?" Because again, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame around that.
I totally agree with you, because like I know that when I was going through that, like I wasn't my best self. Like
there's no way you could be.
I was not my best self, and like I'm so grateful that my one best friend like stuck it out. Because bless her soul, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, and I even told him like, thank you for like not giving up on me during that time, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, because I was like, man, I was just not in the right space, you know? I was just like trying to do whatever I felt in the moment was like right, even though it wasn't, you know?
Right.
And so I'm just so grateful that she like I told her, thank you for sticking it out and like not giving up on me, because like you know, you do really need those friendships that you know, like you said, that community to like really just guide you to guide you in the right direction and guide you back to God.
So true. Letting them know that they're worth more than that relationship, right? Because again, a lot of times we think, okay, this is the end all be all. Again, can't tell you how many marriages have unfortunately ended up in divorce.
Yeah.
And sometimes for the better.
Yeah.
But being able to be a really good friend and being able to just notice, like, hey, I love you. I'm here if you want to talk about anything. But you don't see yourself lately.
Yeah.
Is everything okay? I love you. And that is what people need, especially when you're going through abusive relationships.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because you don't feel worthy, you don't feel lovable, you don't feel good enough.
Yeah.
You feel ashamed or embarrassed. And having someone just be like, look, girl, I love you no matter what.
Yeah.
He's not the one for you.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah,
you can do way better in Jesus' name. So,
I totally agree.
Well, I love that you came and shared this. This is such a beautiful and important conversation. And I just love what you do. I know you have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Can you share what your YouTube channel is and what it's about?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, it's kind of long. It's a Sparkle and Bloom Coaching. And that's where I just put out content that gives women the tools, the education to learn about the types of abuse that they experience, the manipulation, also to help you heal, just to share the things that help me get through those moments, and also to bring you closer to God in the process, and just remind you of His love, and that He never intended for us to be in bondage. And so that's my channel. So
I just love it though. I think everybody who I brought on, it's like God will use your test and turn it into a testimony, and how He never wastes any part of your story.
Exactly, yeah.
How you had to go through it, trailblaze through it, go through the pain, and now you're on the other side, coaching other women and saying, "Hey, you can do it." You know. So I love that so much. Well. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's been just an honor to get to know you and learn more about your story. And if you guys loved having Etienne on my podcast, please drop in the comments below. What are some things that you took away? And also let me know if you wanted to come back. I really hope that this episode blessed you. I hope that you were able to take some really good pointers and tips. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.